Starting, but there we go. Okay. All right. Sorry, I said very. I don't want to say casual week, but a lot different from what we have done in the past. With this gratitude activity that we were able to extend our gratitude towards three people that we thought about, in which we, I guess, as I said, provided a treat and a thank you note for them. To kind of express our gratitude towards those people. So I just kind of obviously we want to start with the experiences that we had with this gratitude activity, and the means to which I guess either it helped develop a stronger, deeper relationship with that person, or just the benefits that you saw from performing this activity. So would anybody like to start by discussing their experience with this activity?
I'll go.
Okay.
I would say I had a very spiritual experience. I was able to do it on Sunday because I looked at the next week's material on Saturday and I was like, oh, this would be a perfect Sunday activity. And so I made sure I was alone and uninterrupted so that I could just really focus on the people I was grateful for and why I was grateful for them. And it was interesting because initially in my mind I had like, oh yeah, this is why I'm grateful for this person. But as I started writing, just all of these other little examples and things came to mind. And it was really powerful and helped me really realize how meaningful these people are in my life. And I was just really touched.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I kind of focus on the people that I give mostly for granted, and that is my my wife, my parents, especially at this time in which I'm receiving a lot of support. I never really stopped until so far with this activity to just say thank you in a heartfelt and sincere way. And although, we do say thanks for several multiple kind of reasons during the day to the people that are around us, especially in our families, it's a different thing to stop and think about how their actions are affecting us and how they are helping us reach our goals or have a positive consequence on our lives. And so I really felt that despite their family and they do it gladly and willingly, feeling the gratitude of another person, in this case me, did contribute to create a more special bond and commitment toward each other to continue in this supportive, close relationship. So that's how I went about with it.
I think for me, it was just getting to show that love, that gratitude that I have towards the people that I love. It made me to know that love that our Savior has for everyone else, and to be able to see them the way that our Heavenly Father sees us and them, and just knowing that by showing that we get to feel that love.
I'll just express my thoughts as far as my experiences. And I think for me, it kind of goes with some of the readings that we had supplemented with this activity. Kind of just the way you go about, I guess, presenting that gratitude towards someone is kind of a important aspect of this. Definitely needs to be prepared and thoughtful, and it just doesn't need to be a passing thing. It needs to be something that's genuine and not superficial. Something that someone can actually feel and understand why you're grateful for them, and what they have done for you in their lives. And I chose to obviously, to my wife as one of my people to thank, because I definitely agree with Daniel. It's definitely those people that you take for granted, that you're like, you're obviously grateful for them, but maybe there's the times that you just stop and just do a simple thank you, or just something a little bit more extra or special, to showing that you really are grateful for them. And I think the other people that I focused on was more of work-related people, just to kind of get a more of a, especially working at a retail store coming upon the holiday season, it gets really stressful. There's a lot of customer inflow, a lot of moves that we have to do. Just a lot of things go, especially last night I had a pretty crazy night. So it's just creating that ability to just let people know that I'm there for them, and that I appreciate their leadership and their examples that they provide for myself, and giving me strength and allowing me to be where I'm at today within that job position. And I've noticed that it definitely helps organizational effectiveness, showing that gratitude unto your superiors. It definitely, I think, envelops more trust within the relationship between them. So did you want to expound any thoughts that you had, Chelsea, on your experience at all?
Yeah, I was just going to hit the mic. I was just thinking how with this assignment, it's kind of cool that we get to sit down and actually think about gratitude. Typically, I guess I think of gratitude as like a Hallmark card and a gift card inside. So pretty generic, but I think it's cool to actually sit down and think about specific reasons of why we're grateful rather than just the generic writing in a card.
Very good. Definitely we're good experiences all around. I think we all kind of enveloped the right attitudes and teachings from this activity. So the follow-up question for that, I think we kind of already talked about it a little bit, but I don't know if you guys want to expound a little bit more. What did it feel like for you specifically to extend that gratitude towards those three people you think? For you specifically, how did it feel for you guys?
Well, it feels good, but only after you do it. For some reason, it takes a while before you do it, and jotting down what I wanted to say. I gave for granted so many things that I was identifying one or two important things, important behaviors of the recipient of my gratitude that were positively affecting me. So I had to go through an internal struggle a little bit, because I wanted it to feel like a genuine thing and not something that you just do out of a pro forma, just to because it's something good and and therefore you're expected to do it. But something unique, something sincere, honest, coming from the heart. And so it wasn't easy at first, but after you do it and you see the effect of your sincere and honest feelings on the other person, you feel like, why didn't I do it this often? So I got these kind of feelings.
Anybody else want to express how they felt, or we can move on to the next subject? So follow-up question for that. How did the recipient feel? What was their reaction towards the gratitude that you gave to them? Was it expected? Was it unexpected? Was it something that they obviously appreciated, or did they just take it in passing? So how did they react to the gratitude that you gave to them?
Oh, go ahead, Sierra.
The people who I showed gratitude for, they were grateful in return. It was kind of, oh, thank you, and it was just very, like, they were excited and happy that I had taken the time to do, and so it was just their faces. More than anything, they were just really happy.
Mine was pretty much the same experience, just like, oh, you didn't have to do that. So unexpected, definitely, and received with gratitude. And I got a text from two of the people just later, after they had read the note, just saying, thank you, that was so nice, or, something like that. So I know I found it interesting, like in the readings, gratitude is like a snowball effect. Like, I don't know, once you give it, then you get it, and then you give it, and then you get it, and it just keeps going. So that's what I experienced.
I would say for myself, I think at least I guess it's my hope, or I guess the goal as far as gratitude goes. It's kind of like you're saying, a snowball effect, or I guess you kind of want, gratitude can be infectious. So the more I guess you give it to someone, showing gratitude to them, and then someone notices that you're expressing gratitude, I think people, they kind of self-reflect and ask themselves, like, do I express gratitude as much as I need to? Am I grateful myself? Different things like that. And I definitely have noticed that when I expressed gratitude towards those that I did this activity with. Especially one specifically is the second assistant. And I was kind of telling her about, what I was going to, planning to do for her, just to show my gratitude for the things that she's helped me with, the lessons that she's helped me learn, becoming into management, and, the things I need to be aware of, and, things I need to be, better at. And she was just really taken aback. She was like, whoa, like, I didn't expect this coming. And to me, that was a really good feeling. It's because I think it's important to, I guess, to draft that gratitude towards someone, because I think, to me, they would never know if you didn't express that gratitude, if you've ever helped them, or if they've ever done anything for you. It could just be a thing in passing, being like, well, I made my achievements all on my own. You never even helped me. They would never know that. So I think expressing that gratitude is definitely an important thing in helping others understand that they are of value, and that the lessons that they've provided for the people that they work around is not taken for granted. Their time's not wasted. You know, they've actually done something well with their lives and with their positions. Any other comments on this before we move on to the next subject or next question? Super good. Okay. All right. So the next question. What is the role of gratitude in organizations?
I think it creates motivation. I work to see how like showing gratitude for your employees, like to work harder. I work for a company and we make big fans. And one year we worked really, really hard that year. And we ended up having like record sales for the company. And our production team was working really, really hard to get everything out. In the year, they rewarded the whole with a trip. And afterwards, work even harder because they saw like, okay, well, they're grateful they are for us, and in return, the employees worked harder. And so it was kind of cool to see how motivation that they needed to continue to work hard through the busy times and through all the craziness of staying busy. So
I have something to say. So, as far as gratitude in like the workplace, like Sam said before about the whole snowball thing, if the higher ups or the CEOs or bosses are grateful for their employees are going to be grateful for the customers. And it's going to snowball down. And people like to be recognized. They like to know that they're doing good. They like to know that they're succeeding in their job. That's just kind of what I was thinking.
Well, something that got me thinking is the fact that one of the articles that we read mentions that one of the reasons, the main reasons people quit their job in search of another job opportunities because they don't feel that they are given the opportunity to develop their skills or they don't feel they are appreciated for what they do. Skills and abilities are not regarded as important to the organization. And tying back to what Sierra said, everybody has this innate desire to feel gratified, and gratitude within an organization allows to satisfy that desire, that inner desire, and it strengthens the bond between co-workers and employees, not because of the things, of the goals, of the task at hand, or what they are expected to do, but because they love working together. They love the relationship that they enjoy. The Harvard Business Review calls it camaraderie. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well. Camaraderie, and this camaraderie environment. So employees love to feel part of a group, and gratitude helps them feel that they are part of that group.
Very good. I think there's a very excellent comments. Strictly, I think having that expression of gratitude, I think is especially key for upper management in organization, because especially when things get busy, when things get really high demand, high volume, or they're expected to do more work than sometimes they can handle, and stress levels are to its peak. It's important to really express that gratitude to which the workers are performing at their levels, because I think it needs to be recognized, the hard work that even the part-time employees, or the ones that are just kind of, I guess, at the entry-level positions are doing. I think it's the more they're recognized, the more vital that they know that their job is. It's just kind of like the article says, retention rates are higher. I mean, people want to stay at the jobs that they're working at higher because they're more appreciated for the work that their time that they're giving in their lives. And I think that's an important aspect of gratitude within an organization to help essentially retention rates for the people wanting to stay at your job or their job within an organization. So very good comments there in regards to that. So have you guys seen examples in your own lives of how that gratitude can increase effectiveness within an organization?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, sure thing. So it says, so have you seen examples of how it increases effectiveness? So like gratitude within that organization. Have you personally seen within an experience that you've had either at work or I guess more specifically within an organization, of how it has definitely increased in effectiveness?
So I worked for a pest control company, actually. For a while, I was just in the customer service department, but every year, at the end of the year, they have a big banquet where we talk about the successes that year, how much we've grown as a company. My very first year there, I had only worked in the office for like 6 months at the time, and my manager had made me in charge of all of the really angry customers, which was so fun. So I had to take those calls and try and keep them as customers and prevent them from canceling. And our motto was, "We don't do ordinary." That's like the company motto or slogan. And at the banquet, and I had no idea because I hadn't been to previous banquets, but they gave awards to to a person in each of the departments. And I was the recipient of the "We Don't Do Ordinary" award. And so, they showed their gratitude for me in front of all these people, which was like, it's like uncomfortable, but you also feel really good. But that just made me want to work even harder the next year. Not that I'm expecting to be rewarded, but it was nice to feel appreciated for the work that I had done. And, I think as a whole, the people in the company know that that they have the opportunity to be like publicly appreciated for good work. And that might make them work a little bit harder, but yeah, that was that. But that's like the one example that stuck out to me.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I had a similar experience in a company where I worked. I was within the sales force, and we had this company Christmas lunch, and I don't know about there, but here in Italy, it is tradition to do bingo during Christmas time. It's more of a social thing. And so when we got to this restaurant, very nice place, the manager said, just pick up one number, and there's going to be a drawing and a bingo during the lunch. And so I did, and after we ate, we gathered together, we were socializing, and then we finally got to the bingo thing, and it was like it worked as magic. My number came out, and the number of the recent sales forces came out. I was pretty recent too. I had done well in the months before, but it was clear that the intent of the company was not just to play bingo, but to make the recent sales force feel part of the group and important, and to give them something as an encouragement, as a well-deserved present. And this made me feel, as Samantha said, it made me feel important, valued, considered in front of everybody, and I really like being part of that group in that company.
Very good. Definitely good. Glad you guys were able to have those experiences and see firsthand the importance of gratitude within organizations. I think definitely see the importance of when just a company, or when its upper management acknowledges the hard work that, to me, which is the more important workers, which is the staff that kind of makes everything happen. Working for retail, a lot of people always think, oh, it's a management that's making things operate around here, which, it to some extent that's, true, but, it's really the sales floor, the sales force that is the one that's driving the leading, force of, helping out the customers, getting projects we need to get done, making the store look the way it's supposed to look. They're the ones we're directing to get those things done, and they're the ones really providing the success for the company. The more sales they can bring in, the more suggestions that they can give, the better profits the company get, the better returns the company gets. So greatest assets that a company can have, or it's really, I don't want to say like lower, I guess, employees, but like just the entry level employees, the ones that aren't in the management positions. Those are the ones really making the difference instead of the, management. You know what I mean? I think those are the ones that deserve the most praise, and deserve the most gratitude, with some limitations to that. Can get overly expressive, because that could lead to the wrong type of attitude. Just have to be a little bit wise and giving that out, especially to some people that may be a better worker than another person may be. Just definitely have to be wise about that. So are there any other comments on this before we move on? We're good to go. All right. All right. So what are some barriers to expressing gratitude? And I kind of, I guess, skimmed across a little bit of them, but what are some barriers that we could experience when we express gratitude?
I think for me, just like not wanting it to become like a show. I don't want it to be like a production. Like I just want to like express my gratitude and kind of just say thank you. Sometimes people can be like, oh, like thank you so much, and they can want to do stuff back. It kind of defeats the purpose of the gratitude in a way. Like it's great if they want to do something back, but you're just trying to say thank you for doing what you did in the first place. And it kind of becomes like a competition to like keep saying thank you back and forth. And also just the time. I think those are like barriers for me personally, is having the time and not wanting it to keep going back and forth, just saying thank you and like moving on to different things. So.
Probably having a feeling of entitlement, or supposing that people ought to do that anyway, which might be true to some extent. I mean, we all have tasks and responsibility, and we're all held accountable of a specific stewardship. But at the end of the day, it is our individual willingness to live up to those expectations that are placed on us that enable us to carry out things, to bring results. And so I think we should not believe that just because we are expected to do something, or people are expected to do something, that they do not deserve our gratitude, our thanksgiving. We should thank the people for doing what they do, because no one is ever compelled to do even what is expected for him or her to do.
All right, I think definitely agree with both your comments. To kind of add upon that, this article kind of gives a pretty good barriers to, I guess, being grateful. I think one of them is, this is a preoccupation with materialism, and I think just kind of being able to, I guess, when you express gratitude towards one person, it just depends, I guess, on the person you give it to. It can lead to comparisons between people, which can lead to resentful feelings towards another employee. So that's why I feel like gratitude has to be given at the right moment, in the right circumstances, and just not freely going around and expressing it to someone and then just not expressing it to another person. I think it definitely has to be a universal thing, and done in the right circumstances for people to be able to know, why we're grateful, why a person or employee, we're grateful for that employee, or what they do well. And if you do it in the wrong circumstances, it can be viewed as, well, you are grateful for him, what about me? And I guess that sets up a time where it does kind of come into play, where people are like, they're wanting that gratitude now that you're giving it so freely to other people. Like, what about me? Like, are you not grateful for me too? It definitely has to be given in the right circumstances, for people to be able to understand, that, we should really be grateful for every employee or person that we are involved with in our lives, that has helped us along the way. So let's see, and how do you think those barriers are overcome? Like, how would we overcome those barriers of expressing gratitude?
Well, by one way could be, one of the things that I liked reading in the articles was about counting your blessings, stopping and thinking about all the things that makes you feel grateful. I think is a good exercise for us to overcome certain barriers. Because as we become more aware of things that we may be giving for granted, our gratitude may increase. So that's one thing that I can think of, to count your blessings and do a conscious effort. That's something also that was mentioned in the talk we read from President Monson. He said that showing gratitude requires a conscious effort, and that may be something good to go through periodically to make sure that gratitude is in our hearts and in our words and actions consequently.
I think to avoid barriers is just make a habit of thanking people, and doing it like in a manner. So if somebody does something that you're grateful for, tell them right after they do it, or pretty soon after they do it, instead of like months later saying, oh, you know, I really appreciated the thing that you did, you know. It's kind of like, as a manager, when you need to correct the behavior of somebody, you want to make sure that you do that soon after the improper behavior. And I think it's the same with showing gratitude. You want to show that gratitude as soon as possible after the desired behavior.
Just to add upon what he said about overcoming barriers, I think it's kind of in line to what Daniel was saying. They're doing a personal evaluation, a little bit of a personal inventory of questioning, you know, ourselves of like, you know, what are my blessings? I guess in that article, it talked about just like habits you can do to be able to become more grateful or express more gratitude, is to, you know, think of 3 good things, you know, that happened during the day or just in that day. Think of 3 things that that were good, instead of thinking of things negatively, you know, instead of, you know, dwelling on the bad things, you know, why wasn't I put in this department, or why do I have to manage this employee, or, you know, this employee doesn't do this well, or, you know, it kind of reflecting our thoughts more towards the positive rather than the negative, is, I think, a great way to overcome barriers of expressing gratitude. And, you know, obviously, understanding when we're giving it gratitude in the right times and when it shouldn't be, you know, the right time to do it. We definitely need to balance that out as well. Definitely personal inventory and evaluation, I think, is a key component to overcoming barriers of expressing our gratitude. I also believe that the attitude that you give and giving that gratitude is important as well, because the way it's perceived is just as important as the way as it's given. You know, you want someone to know that it's genuine rather than superficial, knowing that, you know, oh, you're just doing this because you're trying to suck up or something like that. You know what I mean? I think it's you know, you need to do it genuinely, and you need to do it appropriately, so that people they know that you are truly grateful for what you've done, and be specific to exactly what you're grateful for. So as far as discussion prompts, that was the last question. It kind of just encouraged me to develop some of my own questions in regards to the articles. So I wasn't able to get very much questions, but I did get one for my just for my own, I guess, own question that I would like to see just answers to, or just curious. And yeah, and you guys might think differently on this question, but I kind of notice it in my kind of day-to-day, especially at work, and just seeing it even in social media and different things like that. So I'm going to try to see if this makes sense as I wrote it down. All right, so it says, why do you think people typically resort to negative thoughts or behaviors rather than reflecting on the positive ones?
I'll go first. I think focus on the negative because it's easier. You know, I've heard that, let me back up a little bit. I've heard that when someone has a bad experience with like a restaurant or something like that, they tend to tell like 10 people about that instead of something good happens, they tend to only tell like 1 or 2 people. And the adversary works is he wants us to see the negatives and not the positives. And I think that's why gratitude is so important, because that we are able to, Savior feels about us and about our Heavenly Father. And so I think we tend to focus on the negative because it's easier. That person was being this way or so on, you know? And so I think it's just easier to focus on the negative than to take the time to acknowledge all the positives that you see. There's a talk, the Mormon message that President Eyring, he's talking about how he spends, like every day he writes down like how he's seen God's hand. And something that I started doing like during my mission is I started writing down one way that I saw Heavenly Father's hand as I was doing my missionary work. And I soon found myself writing down more of the positive things, more of those good things, instead of writing down, well, this person didn't like me or so. So I found myself focusing more on the good. And so I think it takes a real effort to focus on the good instead of on the negative.
I was pretty much going to say the same thing. Like, complaining is taking the easy way out. It's the natural man in us coming out. So, yeah, Sierra basically said it all.
Well, I mean, a thought that came to my mind as I was hearing your comments is that often talking about the positive requires that we kind of shrink, like we humble ourselves to recognize others' achievements, and that doesn't come much natural to most of us. We are all very much concerned with our own interest, with how good we are. We need to look, and we feel threatened sometimes by the good things that we see in others, instead of welcoming them and say, I'm glad that someone has this quality and that I can learn from it by looking at it, and that he or she can have a positive impact with it. We feel threatened. We feel that because of their positive behavior, their talent, their skill, we are less regarded by others. So it's a matter of pride sometimes that we tend to focus on the negative, because we think that by doing so, out bolstered, will come out stronger than before. Whereas I think that it's not true. And as we learn to lift others when they deserve it sincerely, honestly, for what they have done, we are actually making ourselves stronger, and our character grows, and we're more reliable as people. So it's a different mindset that it doesn't come natural, but we should all work on it, I believe.
I think those are very good responses. Different things that are worth pondering on. They provides good answers for myself, and thinking of that, thinking about that question. I think it's just upon what you all said. It's to me, it's one of those things to where it's an interesting thing to where resorting to negative thoughts is an easy way, or sometimes a convenient way, or it kind of fills your natural man needs, or something or other. But it's interesting that the things that are harder to work for are more worth it in the end. And I think that's an interesting factor, especially here. Thinking about positive things, you're kind of like, oh, well, what is good about me? What do I have? What do I do well? What things am I grateful for? What blessings do I have? When we tend to know exactly what's wrong with us, we can name a humongous list of what we do wrong and what others do wrong. So it's definitely a good thoughts on that question. And just a follow-up question, and then we'll try to wrap things up here. Just to that question, do you think this is a reflection, and this could be within a company or personal life, do you think it's a reflection of company culture or life decisions to resort to that negative, I guess, thinking or feelings?
I think it's both. I think the environment where you live, if it's not positive, then you're just going to take that negativity to work. And when one person is negative at work, it's a lot easier for other people to get negative too. So sometimes I tell my husband, like, if he's sad or something, I'm like, you can't be sad because you're going to make me like be negative too. And we don't function if we're both like that. So, and it's the same thing. Like if I'm super moody and complainy, then it affects him and it affects the atmosphere and the spirit in our home.
But the environment is certainly an important factor, although I think it's not the main one. At the end of the day, we can all decide to focus on the positives, on the bright side. Even though everyone else seems to do differently, we were not made to go through the motion. We can still make a difference and try to lift people, to focus on the good side. But I understand that it might be very challenging, especially if you are in a completely different company culture where everybody is allowed to play dirty, to think on themselves, and you may be tempted to do likewise. But it's definitely your choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, very good. I think that kind of sums up everything that we kind of talked about today. Definitely, gratitude is a effective tool that companies can use to utilize positive behaviors and camaraderie within a company culture. It definitely drafts unity and a certain drive within people. I definitely noticed it within my own work realm that the more we provide that gratitude, the more people are willing to work, the more they're willing to do, willing to be more creative and be more of an effective tool to the company. It's just interesting how there are a lot of companies that a lot of people don't want to work for and quit. And it's just kind of, to me, it's just kind of common sense. Drafting gratitude to someone is pretty simple and an obvious principle that drafts that trust and that positive motivation for someone to want to do better. You just got to be able to understand and know to do those things. And I think pride is probably the main issue why that gratitude isn't given. Rather than be like, you did this wrong, or why didn't you get this done? going about it in a different attitude. I think, expressing gratitude for things they do right, but then, obviously personally developing them or coaching them on what they need to do better is the more appropriate route. So definitely a good week to kind of reflect on the importance of gratitude within organizations and within our own personal lives. Is there any last comments anybody wanted to make before we end? All right, everybody's good to go. All right, guys. Well, until next week. I think just we have to post this video to the discussion board, and it's good to go. All right. I don't think there's really much else this week. All right. Perfect. All righty. Well, until next week. You guys have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.